What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on a topic that was discussed on the Run It Back podcast, right? And they were discussing should conferences be eliminated from you know from the playoffs, or just conferences be eliminated, period. And my thing is, I don't think conferences, number one, should be eliminated because it creates more competition. Like when you have the Western Conference and you had the Eastern Conference, then it creates, like competition between the East and the West, right? That's number one. Number two, I just think that the NBA shouldn't really change the way that it's set up, because it just seems like they're gimmicky instead of improving the product. I think that's the real issue with the NBA, is improving the product on the court. So even if you change it from have everybody all one conference, and then you'll have five teams from the West or like seven teams from the West Coast, and maybe only five teams or four teams from the East Coast, or the best four teams. I don't really like that. It just seems like a gimmick. It takes some of the competition, like I said, away from the separation of the two conferences that you had. So let me play the audio from the Running Back podcast, and let you hear what they had to say about it, and then I'm gonna come back and react.
Of thinking about ways to change stuff and possibly make it better. We've talked about this, eliminating conferences in the NBA. Some people love it. Some people think it's the worst thing you could do and all the reasons why it wouldn't work. However, yeah, I know. But you know what? We're going to paint the picture, Lou. I'm going to see if I can get you over here on the eliminating conferences bandwagon, because if we were to do that now, it would be the top 12 teams making the playoffs, right? And weirdly enough, it's not as lopsided as one thinks. So you got following 8 teams playing single elimination, remaining 4, 16-team tournament style bracket. Here's what it would look like right now, which means 7 teams from the West and 5 teams from the East would be in the, quote, playoffs. So that's not as crazy lopsided as we once thought. And 5 from the East, 3 from the West would be in the play-in. Okay. Number one, I think this actually goes to make the argument that perhaps while the West is probably a little bit better, it's not as dominant as we once thought, Lou. Like we've been talking crazy, like the East is garbage and the West is awesome. But look at this. It's not that crazy.
All right, so even before Lou Williams give his point of view, right? Even when it comes to like the All-Star game, like how do you separate the teams then? Like I said, I like the East and the West. When it comes to All Stars, when you had guys picking, like you'll have Giannis pick for one team, and then you'll have LeBron pick for another team. I didn't really like that, because sometimes, I like to divide it up by the conferences, because that way you'll get guys from the West who never really see each other, play the East, or you'll get guys on the West who get to play on the same team with each other, against guys from the East who get to play on the same team for each other. So I just like the way they had it set up at first.
Thoughts?
That is crazy. And even if we did like the traditional 1 through 8, right?
Okay.
As it stood from, if we can get that graphic back up.
Go throw it up there again. Yeah.
Yeah. But if we 1 through 8 right now, first round would be the Pistons and the Lakers. Look at the commute that both of these teams got to make for a playoff round.
Here we go.
By
horse and wagon, is that what you're worried about? That the horse and wagon commute's going to take too long?
No, it's not a horse and wagon. I think you guys just don't understand how much of a thing that is for teams and for travel. If you're trying to get the quality of a game, like if you're trying to get quality of a game, and we're traveling across the country every 4 days to play games, you're not going to get the quality of the game that you want. Now, you're not. I'm telling you, as a
2-3-2, you got time. You got time to
it's
get there.
It's only
chill.
My life's work, Beetle. I'm telling you. But
Boogie's laughing, and I don't know which way he's going to go on this. This is like, I have no idea where
he can have his own opinion. Let's ask Boogie. He can have his own opinion.
Do you not
I'm
think it'd be
actually
more
open
fun to
to it.
watch?
I'm
He
actually
open
open
to it. He
to
like
it. And I'm open to it for my own selfish reasons. I'm thinking about, my playing time in my early years in Sacramento, and just if I could have got a few more Eastern Conference, well, in this situation, they wouldn't be considered Eastern, but if I could have got a few more Eastern Conference teams under my belt as far as wins, then maybe that does push me to a playoff spot. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So I'm thinking more of it in a selfish way, but everything Lou is saying as far as like the conferences are there for a reason. When you think about the traveling and all of those things, obviously if I'm the Lakers and I got to play Miami first, like that's a lot. That's a lot of travel on both.
And see, yeah, I didn't even really consider that, like the travel to go from the East Coast to the West Coast, or go from Los Angeles to Miami. That is a lot, and so, and the reason why, and just like Boogie said, they're there for a reason. So you'll play yourself, even in college basketball, I think it's, like regions, right? When you get to the NCAA tournament and all that, you are in a region, and they have regions for, for travel and convenience purposes, right? It'll be less expensive for teams to travel, and then it'll be less time consuming for teams to travel.
Teams,
Okay.
then you have to consider the quality of basketball. They're complaining about it now. Can you imagine with traveling cross country for every single game? So you have to put that into consideration, but you also have to think like, man, it could get really, really interesting with, teams having the ability to play, better teams or worse teams more times a year. So I think it changes the whole landscape of the playoffs and of teams with the ability to make the playoffs. So I'm not really against it.
With our logic, right? With our logic, the Eastern Conference teams are going to be at the tail end of this, right? So if I'm OKC, first round, I got to go to Cleveland, and then I got to go to somewhere else in the East. So how is that a benefit for me to fly? Well, 2 or 3, 4 hours. Yeah, like that's not gonna be beneficial for me as a 1 seed to be able to stay in my neighborhood, so to speak, for doing what's right, even on the away game. So if you look at it again, my first round is gonna be in Cleveland. And then I'm gonna have
That's
to play.
That's better than if they have Warriors first round, geographically speaking, of course.
Somewhat.
Technically.
Yeah, somewhat. But again, so if I got to go from Cleveland, and then if I have to go to Cleveland to Toronto to New York to get to a championship, and I'm a 1 seed, that's just a crazy ask. I'm sorry. For round after round,
OKC is one of the
crazy ask.
OKC might be the
because
best
they're in the
case.
middle. They're almost in the middle of the country. That's a little different. But let's say Phoenix is the number 1 team.
Okay.
We're having a different conversation. We're having a completely different conversation. Let's put Detroit as the overall number 1 seed. And they got to come out west for a couple of rounds. That's not a benefit to Detroit. It's not a benefit,
but it's a benefit to the fans, because now you get to see these stars more than once. Like, I kind of love that for everybody. Don't you think the fans would be stoked?
That part I can feel, but I can only look at it as a player. I can only look at it as somebody who's been.
Even as a fan, I like the tradition of a team working their way out of the Eastern Conference, or a team working their way out of the Western Conference, and then you go up against the best from that, the conference, that region, wherever they come from. So, and the way it was set up, I thought from the very beginning, conferences, the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, it was set up for convenience and for travel. You'll get a better product if these guys are more well rested, in my opinion, than you would if somebody is, if they have to keep flying back and forth across the country, or even out of the country if they're going to Toronto or something like that. Like I said, the whole thing is with the NBA, I think is, instead of trying these different gimmicks and stuff like that, I think they should improve the product on the court. Basically, that'll solve everything, and then on some traditions, I think when you had the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference going against each other, some traditions don't need to be broken or changed. Let me get back to some more what they have to say about it, though.
Shoes before, and I'm like, damn, That would be crazy to experience
brutal.
that, especially if I'm a 1 or 2 seed, and I got to go across the country for 3 games and then do it again and again based on standings. Like that wouldn't be a benefit to me.
I'm going to ask this next question, but I'm going to preface it with I'm about to say a lot of words, and I'm going to confuse myself in doing so. So
All right, so I think they about to get into something else, but yeah, I just think that they should keep it the way it is. You know, they trying to experiment with different things, and when the bottom line is just improve the product on the court. That's that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'll check y'all out in the next video. Peace.